Hi, Thomas Miller with the Fun Astrology Podcast. There is some amazing astrology for us to look at around the life and the death of Queen Elizabeth II. Let's take a look at her chart. First of all, the natal chart, just so we get a perspective in the context of how well she lived her life from an astrological perspective. This woman was born to be the monarch of England. First of all, her birth date, April 21st, 1926 at 2:30 a.m. in London, England. That makes her a 21-degree Capricorn rising. Capricorn, of course, ruled by Saturn. And look at this. Saturn in her natal chart is right on the cusp of Scorpio. It's in Scorpio, and it's right next to, look, just almost the same minute as her midheaven. That is her career, and it's in the 11th house. She was made to be a career person to the masses and to do it for a long time. Not only did she have a long life, she had a long rule as queen, indicated here by the later degrees of not only Saturn's placement, but also the later degrees of Saturn in her midheaven, her rising sign. So this is just symbolism number one right here. And then if we flip over to the other side, look at this. The moon, which is for a monarch, the people, her followers in the seventh house of relationship. She had a love relationship with the people of England and the world. And it's in Leo. I can't make this stuff up. She was made to be a monarch. And you're going to see later in another video, we'll take a look at Charles' chart. He is a Leo, so back over here, he is a Leo rising. So you can see even in Charles' chart that he was born into this and yet had to wait 73 years in order to finally assume the throne. Charles' chart is also interesting, but we're going to focus on the Queen right now. Here is the other piece that we need to consider. Mars, 20 degrees Aquarius. And again, look, we're right on that cusp. And just over here is Jupiter. There was her expansion. There was her power. And it's going to be significant as well in her death. Now, before we look at her death chart, let's look at her rule as queen, because I think there are some significant things here. First of all, the Saturn midheaven. So this stable, hardworking, reliable. She just was always there. We always remember the queen was always there. Well, that's symbolized right here. It just moved over, but it moved over into Sagittarius when she became queen. So now all of a sudden, that Jupiter that we just pointed out is ruling her monarchy. It's ruling her reign. And it was blessed. And it was expanded. Even though the number of territories, I know. And that's part of the contraction was also built in. And in fact, we can see that here because remember, the moon was in the seventh house in Leo. Pluto was just 5 degrees. And this is a solar arc chart. So it moves at a very slow 1 degree per year. 5 years after she became queen, the challenges began. Pluto, the planet of transformation, death and rebirth, moving things out that were old. And when she became queen in 1952, I got the date up here, February 6, 1952, the United Kingdom had 70 colonized territories. Now it has 14. So that reduction took place under her rule. And you can see that the moon is in the 8th house, of course, in astrology, which rules death. So there was this, and it also rules transformation. So this death and rebirth, this transformative process took place under her rule because this outer solar arc of the day of her crowning is in essence a birth chart of her monarchy. So it is incredible what we're looking at to see that exactly the challenges. And that's where we're going to look at Charles, and then we'll also look at William, because as you've already seen in the headlines, things are not going to be the same. Let's look at one other, and this will, of course, be the time of her death. Now, what time are we picking here? I am choosing 2:30 in the afternoon, and I'll tell you why. The announcement from the royal family on Twitter was received at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. So add 5 hours to that, and that would put the time of that announcement to the world at 6:30 p.m. local time. And it said that she passed this afternoon. So we've got a noon to 6:30 p.m. window. Now we know that the Prime Minister was informed at 4:30, 2 hours prior to the public. Now, I'm choosing this time because if you think about the things going on around a family gathered together for the death of a monarch, the soul leaving the body, which is sometimes it can be the quick process. It is in a sudden death. In her death, it was probably even over the course of hours where the soul could have hovered in the room. And I'm not going to get into all of that. You can have your own interpretations on that. But I'm pretty comfortable with 2:30 as a marker time. Now, it's going to be very important that some of you London-based astrologers around the London School of Astrology find out what time it did happen, because that's, I think, the time that Charles' rule began, and we need to have an accurate time so that we can establish a chart of his rulership. That would be incredibly helpful. But here's what happened. Take a look at this then at 2:30. We have, remember that symbolism right here on the first house, which the first house in astrology, this little piece of the pie right here, what that means is how we show up to the world, how we show up out there to others. It's our public life. It's how we radiate past this physical body. And Saturn, planet of death, the moon, the people are all gathered with the family at her bedside as she completes her public life. So right here at the end, see 21 degrees? Right here at the end, this is a beautiful picture, truly beautiful picture, that she was still doing her queenly duties on Tuesday. She met the Prime Minister. And then on Thursday, she met the Lord. She lived her life well. She was indeed blessed. And she had lost her love 5 months ago, her life partner, the man by her side for every bit of the ride. It was time to go. And she slipped out in just as much style and grace as she lived.